I don't know, but in the previous video, there might have been a guy over my shoulder. Was he flipping you off? I don't know if he was, but if so, that's funny that he actually recognizes that I'm filming myself. I guess I did get kind of animated at the end of that last one, but that's because I was talking about Africa, and you know, it was just such an exciting time in my life to get out of my comfort zone, to see how God saves you when you're in really uncomfortable situations and you have no idea what's going on. And the only thing you can do is just say, God, I trust you. I didn't just stay on the ship when I was working with Mercy ships there. We got out about once a weekend. And well, we got out more than that locally within Freetown, but actual out of the city, out into the countryside, about once a weekend, which is quite a bit. And those stacked up to be a lot of crazy adventures. We actually went with Lewis, and he bought a van. He was another volunteer there. He was from Texas. And his job, let's see, he worked in the same department as I did, marketing or communication. And he bought a van there. And that was a, wow, crazy purchase. Man, talk about a committed fellow to purchase a car when you're on a mission trip there. You may think that's not that big of a deal, but vehicles in Sierra Leone are extremely expensive. It's because they have to import everything. And so living there on the ship, you'd actually be living in the shipyard itself. And you could walk along and look inside these big containers and you would see cars in there, but not just cars parked in there. We're talking like cars stacked on top of each other. I remember seeing this one SUV. It was parked up on top of another car's hood. Like, I don't know how they got it in there. And then between the tires and the hood of the car, there was a mattress. Evidently the mattress protected the hood of this car. But that's how they ship things, you know, very innovative people. I swear, Africa is the land of balance. They just balance everything. Balancing vehicles, balancing things on top of their head, balancing fruit in the markets as you'd sort of make your way through these markets and people are screaming and yelling at you, wanting you to buy things, trying to pick your pockets. They, you know, you'd see their, oh, just a moment, there's an ambulance coming. Was that loud? It probably wasn't loud. But they balance everything, including the fruit. They'd make these cute little pyramids that would just take me hours to get oranges that high up and balanced. But they were able to do it. Incredible people. So we got in this van, and Lewis would invite us, and I would come along, and I'd take pictures, and it was also very handy having Liz, a nurse, there. In case one of us got hurt. We drove all over the country. We went to, what's that country in the south? Is it Liberia? It's not Libya. It starts with an L. But we went down that way to TY Island. We went up to Guinea. We went everywhere. And one of my favorite ways to tour a country is to purchase their weapons. As you know, I love weapons. But what's interesting is, depending on the region of a country, they fabricate weapons to work well within that region. But let me give you some examples here. So within Freetown, a big capital city of Sierra Leone, we're talking tiny little streets and massive amounts of people live here. The city itself was designed for maybe 10,000 people, and there's just like, what, 1 million people living there? I'm just making up those numbers, but you know what I mean by just like, they're living on top of each other. But you'd walk down the street to purchase a machete, or in Creole, their language, they would call it a cutlass or a cutlass. Yeah, I'm gonna buy a cutlass, as if you were a pirate or something. Arr. But how these cutlasses were designed is they would take the leaf springs on. Sorry, just driving here. Want to be careful. You know the shocks on trucks on the back? They're sort of like this, and they sort of flex like this. And they're leaf springs, and it's extremely tough metal because, well, it has to be tough. There's a lot of weight on top of it, flexing. And so they take this metal and they cut it up and fabricate it into just this brutally razor sharp barbed machete. And then the handle, they would get tires and create a rubber handle for this cutlass. And it was so interesting, and they were really big and heavy. You could cut a coconut in two like that. These things were so heavy. But that was kind of the weapon of choice in Freetown. However, if you went up north to Guinea, then you started to see a lot of mosques everywhere, a more predominantly Muslim population. And there you would notice that they would start to adopt more of an Islamic flair to their weaponry. So, you know, just kind of the quintessential curved blade like you'd see in Aladdin or something like that. Curved and pointy. Cool weapons. And the handle would no longer be made out of an old tire, but it would be made out of wood because it was more rural and more agricultural up there. And then you went down south, and that's when you started to get into all the jungles. And then those blades down there. Isn't this so fascinating, by the way? You could do like entire studies on people groups and identify what their cultures and what the environments are just based upon the weapons in those communities. I swear you could do that. But down south in Sierra Leone, it was more jungly. There were lots of vines everywhere, and you'd sort of get caught as you were going out on hikes. And so their blades were not curved back, but they were curved forward, almost like a Gorkha blade from Nepal. So curved forward, very, very evil looking. And the reason why they were curved forward is that they kind of hooked onto vines as you were sort of walking through the jungles, and they could just effortlessly hold their machete up, and it would just slide down this curve in the blade and cut right through this tentacle that was trying to grab onto you. Isn't that just so interesting? I love it. Love weapons. So there is a little bit about the weaponry and an introduction to some adventures that we took in Africa Lewis safaris. That's what we appropriately called the name of this van, which he decked this van out. It is dirt cheap to get things welded in Africa. And so he just went crazy with welding bars on the inside of this window, bars on top. It was pretty heavy, but it was very safe. Like if we were in the middle of a riot, at which those did happen, it would take them a while to get to us. Yeah, pretty awesome.